This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by trainer Ben Davison here in Las Vegas. Ben, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. You?
I'm all good. I suppose you haven't suffered any form of jet lag on the recent trip to and from the UK?
No, I wasn't there for long enough. I was literally there 25 and a half hours, so yeah, not too bad. Slept on the way back, so yeah, feel alright.
A good starting point there back in the UK, obviously Will and Shabazz with victories this past weekend. Just reflect on both of their performances for me, Ben.
Yeah, an outstanding debut. A lot of hype built up around Will off of that. Composed, brilliant performance. So fantastic debut. Was very happy with his performance there and the manner in what he went about it. And Shabazz, first step up, supposed to be a risky fight, and Shabazz showed his class. A dominant performance early on in his career. Maybe with a couple more fights down, under his belt, probably would have got the stoppage. Bit of a crowd there, hadn't been too active, hadn't boxed in front of a crowd for a little while, and I think probably enjoyed the moment slightly too much at times. But it's all part of experience and a fantastic win that shot him right up the rankings. So.
I mean, Shabazz is an exciting fighter and somebody who many people like to watch boxing because of his style. So with all of this in mind, and again with another impressive victory, what is the plan for him moving forward?
MTK will come up with a plan moving forward, but there's some, that was a good step. That was a good fight for him. A good stepping stone, and puts him in line now. Couldn't get him to fight for a domestic title. Couldn't get someone to take that fight to fight for a domestic title. So that win there puts him in line to start fighting for some international titles, and maybe if it's the case, he'll have to skip the domestic scene. Or look for a European title, something like that. I know Jason Cunningham's got that. We'll have to see what his plans are, but yeah, that fight there has put him in contention to be able to box for the international titles and that. So
now there's a few guys who've had fight announcements who you're obviously working with. Let's just start off with Mark Dickinson, and he was speaking to me earlier and he was saying he wasn't expecting to be back out until next year. He was enjoying the fine cuisine that Las Vegas has to offer, and the next thing he knows, December the 11th up in Sunderland, he's back on a show.
Yeah, so initially the plan was to try and get him out in December. That's why he's come over here, obviously as well, to gain some fantastic experience. And then it looked like he wasn't going to be able to get out, and then all of a sudden we got news, he is able to get out. So yeah, he had to cut out the Chick-fil-A's and start focusing on preparing for a fight.
What are you expecting to see from him this time around in comparison to his debut under yourself? What are you expecting to see from him going into his second bout?
More of the same, and when I say more of the same, I don't mean blowing people away. The composure. Hopefully it'd be nice to get him some rounds. I'd love for him to get 6 rounds in, if I'm honest, and then move on to an 8 round after that. But the guy that he fought last time, he was durable. Aaron McKenna went the full 6 rounds with him, hit him with absolutely everything. But Mark managed to get him out of there quite early. But Mark himself said to me, I weren't looking for it. I was expecting to go 6. So hopefully this time he can get a few rounds in. For experience more than anything, under the lights, the small gloves, and it'll do him the world of good.
And of course, the week after Mark, Lee McGregor finally gets to defend his European title against Narek Agbarian.
Yeah.
I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but yeah, just talk to me about that one and how that fight ended up being the one which came about instead of the number of other opponents that we'd spoke about off camera previously that you was looking at.
Yeah, there was the Maloney, Potapov. We was looking at the guy that ended up getting the fight with Inoue. Then a European defence against that Eli Conky. Out of all of them, didn't take the fight for whatever reason. And this was the next best guy in line. There's all the talk of Lee and Cash Farouk, but this is Lee's 12th fight. You can't overlook people. I think there was a little bit of blew Gurphy away, a little bit of complacency on Lee's behalf going into that Legrum fight, which he'll admit himself, and you can't afford for that at this level. People have got a point to prove. They're going into the fight with Lee's built himself a reputation, so going into the fight making sure they're coming at their absolute best every single time, so Lee's got to do the same.
What do you know about Narek?
that is, how can I put it without giving anything away? He's a slick boxer. Likes to use his feet. Likes to try and punch on the fly. He's only suffered one loss against another guy who looked big for the weight. I'm sure he would have learnt from that defeat. He'll bring his own problems. It's not like because people don't know who it is, people automatically assume it's a walk in the park. No fight's ever a walk in the park. Again, it's only Lee's 12th fight. I'm sure that he'll be bringing his A game. But Lee will be prepared and know exactly what he needs to do, and he'll go in there and get the job done.
I mean, of course, we have a man who is stateside who you're working with, Devin Haney. He's getting ready for the bout with Jojo Diaz come December 4th. How are things going with Devin?
Yeah, good. Razor sharp. Again, it's another good test, you know. Devin's at the point where no matter what happens in the fight, people's going to, oh, it was because of this, oh, it's because of that. If he absolutely wipes the floor with Jojo, it's going to be, oh, Jojo, you know, he's come up from super featherweight or whatever reason they've got. So it's just about him going in, focusing on his business and getting the job done in clean, clinical fashion.
How important, you just said clean, clinical fashion, but how important is it that Devin does look good against Jojo? Because heading into next year, he's been very vocal, as has Teofimo, about a potential fight between the pair of them. And that lightweight scene is just so many great fights to be made, provided December 4th goes to plan.
To be honest with you, nothing matters more than the win, does it? No matter how it looks. You know, before the Carl Frampton fight, people were going on about Josh Warrington can't punch, this, that and the other, and it was supposed to be a walkover. Then all of a sudden, Carl Frampton comes out and says, one of the hardest punches I've been in with. Hardest I've been hit. So people come up with these assumptions. It often depends on the opponent's approach as well. Sometimes the opponent can quite quickly concede and look to survive while still performing as though I'm trying to win. When an opponent of a decent level decides to do that, of course it can be difficult to stop them. So it depends on how Jojo goes about the fight as well. But yeah, Devin's well prepared, and as I said before, if he goes about it the right way, he will push Jojo back and stop him.
Moving away from that, and the one man who is training, obviously got a date in late February, Josh Taylor. How's his knee looking? How are things going with his recovery? And obviously I've just seen him today looking very sharp on the pads with yourself and on the back.
Yeah, come over here. Obviously he spoke to Bob. Bob sorted out for him to see a specialist. That's part of the reason why he's here, getting some rehab done, whilst also doing the work and training that he can without aggravating the knee. So he's still fully focused. Again, going back to, you can't never underestimate opponents, and that's, Josh probably could have said, oh, boxing on December the 18th, but he wanted to be 100% right. He's not underestimating Jack, and that's what he's doing. And you know, there was plenty of time he could have said, you know what, I'll have someone look at my knee back at home, and when you come back, it'll be all right. But no, he made the trip over here to go and see the best that he can see and get the best treatment that he can get, and carry on his training in preparation for Jack. So, you know, it shows his level of commitment to his craft.
Now, Ben, I know you're going to be the same as Josh. You won't want to overlook Jack February 26th, but I'm going to talk to you about three fighters who I mentioned to Josh. Firstly, I saw the video of himself and Terence meeting yesterday. What did you make of it? Was you here at the time? Did you see them kind of next to each other? Was you making little comparisons?
Yeah, naturally there's going to be a little bit of sizing up, but we're also respectful in the fact that this is his fight week, and I think it's, you know, you've got to be respectful of that. It'd be the wrong thing to do on his fight week to be coming in and, you know, talking shit basically. So it was very professional from both parties. But naturally there's going to be a little bit of Josh would do a combination, look at Terence, Terence would do a combination, look at Josh. There was a little bit of that, but obviously yesterday they was in the gym together again, and you know, having a conversation, as I said, very professional, understanding that both Terence has got a fight week and Josh was respectful of that.
What do you make of Terence's bout with Shawn Porter this weekend?
I think it's a good fight. I think there's a good chance Crawford could stop him. I wouldn't be overly surprised. It'd be a very good statement though. Very good statement. But it's one of them fights, you know, at these big fights, everybody's, what do you think, what do you think, what do you think? I think it's an interesting fight, that's why we're all here. You know, that's why we all want to see it. Shawn Porter's a physical guy, we know that, but Crawford's come up through the weights, but he's a strong guy, physical guy. And he's on a great run as well, so it's a fight I'm looking forward to.
Does a win against Shawn Porter, especially say if he was to stop him like you've just suggested he could do, give him a better resume or better standing as the number one in the division against Errol Spence?
I think it depends on the fashion. Does he control the whole fight, or is it a case of tricky start, then finds his feet, finds his timing, finds his distance, then clips him? Is it a bit of a Kavalauskas type fight? So I think that it depends on how dominant the victory is.
Linking it back to Josh, the other two names I want to touch on are Gervonta Davis and Teofimo Lopez. Start off with Teofimo Lopez, who himself and his father have been very vocal about potentially facing Josh. As I said to Josh, I know he doesn't see Teofimo as undisputed, but Teofimo does, and he's been billed as undisputed versus undisputed. So I just wanted to get your take. You know, is it a fight which you think could happen? You know, Josh is open to all comers, as he said to me, but it does seem most likely beyond Cattrall we may well see him move up to 147.
Yeah, like, I understand, like, with Teofimo, he's not undisputed. However, it was a great win against Lomachenko, not to take anything away from him. But he did beat Lomachenko's a featherweight, really, super featherweight tops. Josh is a massive light welterweight. When Lomachenko started letting his hands go that fight, it was quite clear, like, Teofimo clearly won rounds. When Lomachenko turned it on, he very clearly won rounds. So Josh is not going to be afraid to set that pace that Lomachenko set right away. However, as everybody, Josh has cleared up 140. There's always going to be, the next person, the next person, the next person. Teofimo, Zepeda, a rematch with this guy, a rematch with that guy. There's always somebody coming through, this is the guy, this is the guy. Josh cleared up 140, done his business there. He wants to become a two-weight world champion. And that's the focus on his mind. But, first of all, got to take care of Jack Cattrall.
You did just mention there, though, he's got his ambitions to become a two-weight world champion. So Hank versus Tank, take it that's not one which has kind of been even discussed.
It's not really been discussed just because of the PBC thing and that, but there's a lot of respect for Tank as well. A very good fighter. However, same again, he's doing a fantastic job. He's flickering down around different weight categories at the minute. There's always, it's the same again, this is what I'm talking about. There's always, what about this guy? What about that guy? Josh achieved his goal of becoming undisputed at 140. Anybody that was in the division at the time, he went through that division like a hot knife through butter. And he wants to become a two-weight world champion. But again, however, focuses on Jack Cattrall.
Moving away from Josh, just a few other topics I want to get your thoughts on before I let you go, Ben, as I'm sure you've seen the recent announcements at the WBC convention. Let's start off with the biggest one of all, obviously Canelo moving up to cruiserweight to face Canelo-Makabu. Just wanted to get your take on the WBC approving that bout.
Yeah, I'm interested, I'm intrigued. They got me, reeling me in. I'm looking forward to it already. I am, how Canelo goes about the job. So I'm happy with it.
What do you actually make of that fight? Canelo moving up through his best part of 25 pounds?
I don't know. Lee was having a look at Makabu last night after the announcement, but to be honest with you, obviously before it was announced, it didn't even cross the minds. We haven't even had a look at to be able to say, this is what we think. So, but definitely intrigued.
That one does go ahead next year. Ben, do you think that is the end of him even considering moving back down to 168?
No, I don't think so. He probably comes down from roughly around that weight. So it'd just be a case of him not really having to do a weight cut.
I've seen some people suggest that him doing so has now opened it up for others in the divisions, whether middleweight or super middleweight, to face each other. As people saying they can't wait on that Canelo payday, as it were. Do you think it is that now that everybody has to kind of work into a position to eventually face Canelo if the opportunity was to present itself?
Yeah, well, it depends. An interesting point in this Makabu fight being made is, does he vacate the titles at 168? If so, opens up doors for everybody to fight everybody. So we'll have to see what the situation is with that as well.
Ortiz Avanesian, a great fight, WBC final eliminator. Again, your thoughts?
Yeah, brilliant fight. That's a great fight. And those are the fights that need to be made to put yourself in contention to fight for these titles.
What are your thoughts on it? What, not necessarily a breakdown, but kind of who do you edge towards?
I don't really know. Avanesian been in the gym sparring and that, but I haven't watched too much of Virgil Ortiz, so I couldn't comment really on exactly how I think the fight will go. But I know that stylistically it will make for a great fight.
And final one, Ben, obviously up at heavyweight, Dillian Whyte assumed, and Eddie Hearn assumed that the bout with Tyson Fury would have been mandated at the convention. That's not proved to be the case. He has his ongoing arbitration case with the WBC, meaning that's kind of put on hold any Fury-Whyte bout. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, and Tyson as well as anybody, how frustrating a potential another period of inactivity will be to him.
It won't affect his inactivity because he can box anyone. He can, he'll still be able to keep active, and maybe this situation will sort itself out pretty quickly. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what else fight-wise there is really available at the moment.
I mean, it's one thing people are waiting to find out if Tyson can face somebody else whilst all that's going on with Dillian and the WBC. But let's say if he could, the one name that's been mentioned is Joe Joyce. Interest?
I suppose so, but I think the bigger fight is the Dillian Whyte fight, isn't it? Especially with all what's going on and that. So hopefully it gets sorted out and Tyson and Dillian Whyte can get that fight on. But we'll have to see. I'm sure it'll get sorted because it is a fight really that boxing fans want to see.
All right, Ben, we will leave up there now because I know you've got to shoot off, but I need to try and grab Lee before you do so. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.